Okay, so I wanted to work on the faces and the skin for a while. And so I really want pretty clean water. And I'm going to use Naples yellow. And I'm doing that. I'm using Cheap Joe's Naples yellow. Excuse me. Okay. Sneeze is over. I'm using Cheap Joe's Naples yellow. It's actually more of a yellow. So you can see it's kind of like a nice soft ducky yellow, and it's got some white in it, which makes it softer. And so I'm gonna thin that out a lot, because here's the thing, I want to yellow up the skin the tiniest bit. And so let's start down here on the hands. And here's the thing, and you notice I'm doing both hands at once. I don't do one hand and then do the other. I try to tie these places, like where the skin is, together. I can separate it out later, but okay, we'll just pull a little extra right up there. There, I think that's pretty nice. I want to be sure and keep it thin enough. Better too thin than too much. I mean, too much is like disaster. Oops. Over here. Oh, no, that's right. This is it. So this is just going to be a real pale wash. You notice I'm working real juicy and just almost no pressure. So this hand was wet. So while this hand is wet, we'll just go ahead and begin to pull color up over the face where these touch. And remember, this will be even weaker when it's dry. This is a faded photo. We don't know what the skin tones would look like. In fact, even if we had a good photo, it wouldn't be that accurate, but it would be closer. Now, the older woman has darker skin. See, she's considerably darker than the baby, which is what you normally see with any of us. Those babies have got skin like, you know, babies. Okay. Well, let's see, what can we do in the meantime? Let's do a little bit more in the background. You can see that I drew some more leaves in here. But right now, let's see. Right now, they don't show up because the background's not any darker. Let's just pick up some ultramarine. Oh, I've got Naples yellow there. I'll just stick that ultramarine in with that little bit of Naples yellow. Because, you know, sometimes we just do something because we can. So mostly I'm doing this so that I don't have to bother with the dryer. Oh, that's a little darker than I wanted. Tell you what, let's get a little more of this Naples yellow and put it over here. Thin it out a little bit. See, and this is going to bleed off the page. Well, it just is. To keep this from looking like wallpaper, we will have to go back and put some shaping in these leaves eventually. See, and that doesn't have to be real strong. I need to do a more careful job of painting around these leaves. Oops, I totally missed. I got the leaf the wrong shape. I missed part of it. Will anyone ever notice when this is done? Nah. But I did like the shape that I had better than the one I've got now. So up here, I'm going to get it even weaker, because this gets lighter as it goes up. And because these leaves already stand out a little bit. There. See, there's just a little bit more going on here now. Oh, gee, I don't have any leaves drawn in on this side. Well, I can't put them in front now, can I? Well, I just make a leaf up back here. There's a couple of leaves. Here's a shape right there. Yeah. Here's some shape. Used to be a leaf right there. Used to be a leaf. Huh. Okay, that's a little too thin. Let's see. Let's get a little thicker where we're down at the bottom. Thick is the wrong word. A little bit more concentrated. We rarely ever paint with thick paint. We do sometimes, but it's pretty rare. I had car trouble today. I hate car trouble. I have a great son-in-law, though. Okay, let's see. Okay, I could cut this off because you don't have to watch me do every bit of this, do you? Okay, well, I've got that little bit of blue there. Let's just thin it way out. You know, it's got a little bit of green in it. And we'll look at the shadows on her white shirt. From the crease, get a bigger brush. Always use the biggest brush that you can. I want this to be very, very pale. From the crease line here on up, I think I can cover all of this area. And there's a little bit of shadow coming across here. I want this lighter than the actual shadow because I will probably pitch a little bit of some other color in here. And then right here, there's a little bit of... So I want these hard-edged, but I also want to keep it really, really weak for now. Oops. And be careful. Might get a little darker right in here. All the way up there, that's a little darker too. Leave a few wrinkles in this. That's really the wrong shape. Let's just do that. Let's leave this white. At least for now. We're probably going to have to lay something in there later. Oh, well, yeah. Well, I tell you what, we'll just go ahead and do it. Well, I'm keeping that even paler and just pulling a little bit in there, but I'm still leaving some areas that are totally white, just not a big white area. And then, of course, there's this side. And it looks pretty light. I'm going to shade it just a little bit more to kind of put it under and behind. I've got this a little bit bigger than it really is in the picture. This little bit of sleeve. I don't care. The sleeve. Okay, there's a little bit more. Their skin is not as transparent or translucent as mine. So I'm using a little bit of Quinn Coral, but I want that to be just, oops, there's a little bit contaminated. Good. I want that to be just a little bit richer. Let's just put a tiny bit of Quinn Burnt Scarlet into it. Oh dear, I think I got too much. Let's pick up a little of that blue. Let's just pull a little of that blue over there. Ugh. Let's see what that really looks like. You know, that might work on the grandmother. So here's the thing. Really thinned out for now. You can see that really dark area at her temple. Look, it's also darker up here. I want to paint her with maybe some crisp edges. Not the baby. The baby needs to be all wet and wet soft. Some crisp edges are actually more becoming on some of us older people. Really pale, crisp edges. She has an area right under here. And the ears are in, they're not only darker because they're redder, we're going to add more red to them too, but And I plan to make her eyes show up better than they do with these glasses. There's someone that wants this, that is a family member. So I want her to look her best. And so instead of being totally accurate, we're just going to make some features show up better than others. A little bit of an edge there. Okay. So let's look at some shapes down here on her hands. See, that's just real pale. That's just the beginning of some shading on her face. In fact, it's lighter than it looks in the video. Better to go too light than too dark, because you can always add some back in. Let's soften that edge right there. So I got to talk to it kind of gently to make it kind of stay like that. See, I've wiped my brush off a little bit. I'm just kind of teasing it along right there. So this thumb is really foreshortened. And then the hand kind of does that. And of course it doesn't really come down this far. Okay, now on the little girl, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to pre-wet. And I've still got that little dark mark in there. I'm just going to have to take it, cover it up at the very last. So don't let that distract you too much. So I've got a nice sheen on here. Let's just pick up a little bit of this same color. I'm not going to be putting strong shadows on this. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, up here where the bangs are, this is all a lot darker. That's probably, I've got a glare on here where I'm trying to look. That's probably enough there. Now I can't leave it like that. So again, let's take the extra water out of the brush. Nice absorbent Viva paper towel. I'm trying to get a commission off of them. And then just pull a little of that up. So that's just the beginning of a little bit of shape. It's not very much of anything. Let's pre-wet a hand. But because these faces have really soft diffused lighting, we're not actually going to be getting real dark anyway. A little bit of shadow under here. We're just putting some real soft little bits of shape. So see, I've got more color in here than I'm going to want. So, all I'm going to do here, pull up the extra water, mostly out of the middle. So I can kind of control it. I'm kind of keeping an eye on all this as it dries. I want to keep some highlights in there. Okay, that's a decent beginning, I think. Right now, the little girl is just as dark as her grandmother, but that will change. So let's do a little bit more on the face. And I'm going to use I've got a number 6 round here. So the color that we've been using has dried. So it's a little bit more, it's a little bit stronger. I think I'll work with that for a little bit. And I'm just going to begin to develop some of the areas around the eyes. Let's see if we can do it like this. Yeah, that'll show up. Okay. So it's hard to see them on here because of the glare from the glasses. So I actually have to really look for these areas. There's areas under the eyes more than above the eyes. And the thing is, that actually, because even the baby has a little bit of that showing. It's very pale, but it's there. The thing is that frames the eyes. That actually makes the eyes seem larger. I don't want to leave those out just because someone sees them as pouches under the eyes. They still make the eyes show up. So let's say it's a little bit of shape right here. Well, maybe that's a little bit stronger than I wanted. Let's see. So I've got some tiny areas that I'm working with here, but I really think they matter. So I think it's worth it to spend the time on these. There's some lid showing here. And then it just fades into this shape along here where the tear duct is. So right now that stands out a lot because we don't have other shading in here. But I don't think it's too strong. If it is, later I could give it a little bit of a bath because it will come up rather easily. Now I'm going to thin my paint out. See, I'm working with this dry paint here, which is really great because when you've got this, I've got water in here now, but you can see that you have a situation where you can pick up little bits of color and really control how much you've got or even how dark it is. Because if I go over here and pick this up, it'll be a lot darker than what I'm picking up out here. So this is still juicy enough that it will flow down off of the brush. I have to hold this up because I've got a little bit of glare here. So there's a little bit of shape that comes down right in under here. And I think I'll soften that edge just a little bit. Okay, and so I've pulled down a little color down here under that pouch under the eye. Because like I said, that's not a negative thing. That frames the eyes and makes them larger, which is something that we like on most people. Okay, so what I'm going to do just to create some balance is I'm going to take some of the darker here and I'm going to put some color in the pupil. It's not the final color, but oops, I should have waited until this dried a little. But see, that creates some balance because until I did that, this all seemed way too dark. And now that I've done that, see, it's not. So I think I'm going to use the same color and begin to put in the eyebrows. And her eyebrows are fairly weak. In part just because she's older. There's a little bit of eyebrow showing here under the edge of the glasses. It's not that dark. Let's add a little water and blot. I would like for this bit of eyebrow to show up a little bit more than I'm seeing in the photo. And again, part of that's from the glare of the glasses. And that's more becoming that way. All right. Now while we're at it, let's go ahead and put a little bit of this same, reddish skin color. Let's put a little bit of that in the nostrils. Now, one of the things that happens in these photographs and even the old photographs is that some of the darks, let's see, some of the darks look extra dark. So those darks like in the nose are probably darker than they really were in real life. And either way, we don't want to make it that same amount of dark. Now, if I was working a bigger picture, I would vary color in here more. But because this is so small, there's really no point in it. But I have to be careful just because it's so small. There's a shadow over here. Oh, dear. Okay, I'm just going to work what I think is eyebrow for the moment. And you can see her eyebrow just fades out right there. And I think partly it goes gray. And then as we age, we tend to lose that outer eyebrow. But again, I'd rather minimize that loss there. We'll just go ahead and put the dark part in first. It might be easier to get the shadow shapes in around the eye and get it strong enough if you've got a little bit darker pupil here to look at. Okay. So, oops. You know, this is a spot. I'm going to just shadow that in lightly, because we will come back with, remember we've got that extra pointy brush, that synthetic that we bought, some of us bought anyway, special. And we can come back and put the extra dark areas in then, because this is just a little, I won't say it's too clumsy. It's me that's clumsy, not the brush. But if you're anything like me, you may find this a little too big for what I want to do to it later. This is great for this. In fact, the other one might be a little too pointy. So what we've got here is some shape around the eyes. Okay, I need to stop this and wait. That's what I need to do. We need a lot more shadow in here. And at some point I want to shift color a little bit, but I think I'll go ahead and get all of this is shadowed in some right there. And then I'm going to fade it out this way. I think I came a little too far down on the cheek. Let's just give it a little bit of a blot. The paper's really grabbing this paint. More than I would expect it to. Right here, the shadow on the lip line is bigger, darker, right here near the corners of the mouth. So I'm going to do a little bit of that. She's got a very nice mouth. So we're going to play that up. We'll put a little bit. Let's see. I don't want that too dark. Let's put. I may have, some of what I'm doing, I'm probably going to add some other color on top of, and I'm going to want to vary it and make it a different color when I do that. So I don't want to get all the way dark at once. For one thing, I might get too dark. And secondly, it's much nicer if we can have some color variation in this. I'll do one last little area here. Put a little bit of, and again, this is just the beginning. Don't try to get there and get everything at once and get all the depth in, because that's not where we're headed with this. There's a little beginning on the face. Yeah, I'm relatively pleased with that. I guess I'll go ahead and put a little bit of darks in the darkest part of the ear, which seems to be right there is the darkest. And then let's fade it in both directions. Up into here and down into here. This really isn't the darkest part. So something like that. Yeah. This side isn't as dark as the other side. I don't really care whether it's as dark or not, because I'll be adding more darks over there, but also because the ear area is simply not as critical. The major thing on ears that bothers me is that sometimes people overshape them because they feel more comfortable working on the ear. It doesn't show up as much as if it's off, and so they tend to just keep shaping and shaping, and pretty soon the ear looks like it's made out of plastic. That happens. Okay, that's all for this lesson.